So here we go. We're here for episode 24 of the End Product Podcast. I've got Stish and Tony back with me as ever. And as we come onto the call, I just wanted to start this off right off the bat. I've been dealing with the devil. Did a deal with Pavel Trader in the early hours of last night, this morning. I've got to admit, me and Stish, Tony, yesterday, we recorded a wee piece with the Sorare Odyssey guys on their podcast. And the chests with the prizes and the rewards, they were just covered in all this mad green smoke that was pouring out everywhere. So when I was doing these trades with Pavel last night, I don't know if I was completely of sound body and mind, let's say. But I've pulled a trade off with Pavel. I managed to pull in super rare Snodgrass.
Nice.
In exchange for my McCrory and a Limer who's brutally injured. So I'm buzzing to get that in, along with my super rare Tony. I've got super rare Gordon I picked up this week as well. So I've got a nice wee Scottish old gold kind of stuff going on now. Not your old Tony, but you know what I mean.
No,
Gordon and Snodgrass.
Lads, I was that away for school the other night, and I reckon it would have cemented me as number one in Challenger Rail. Well, I'd have got at least podium. I missed the ball by that. I tried my hardest dive, knew that there was 25 points in the line plus a 12% bonus.
Gutted for you, man. You look. Where are you now? I'm just going to have a little look at the update on the rankings to see where you are now. Let's have a look.
No coincidence, Tony says to us, Stish, I'm going to get a bunch of goals by Christmas. You get the super rare in. 8. I didn't want to put the number out there, Tony, in case you're keeping that to yourself.
No, 8.
8 by Christmas. And I then pick up the super rare, and we're cooking my gas all of a sudden. You went kind of mini viral as well for the time wasting stuff the other day, which was quality.
I was getting some amount of abuse, but do you know what? Part and parcel of the game, isn't it?
Aye. It is game management.
It's the wee bit where you bounce the ball off the guy's thigh to catch it back off him.
By the way, I do that every time. I done it last week against Aberdeen. You know my secrets a wee bit. See, if you kick it to them as if you're giving them the ball, but you hit their shin or their knee, it's going to go double the distance back. But I was already on a booking. I was gutted. You can get a wee bit more fun if you know, but that's what it is. And I was just buzzing with one. That's 6 out of 6 in the last 2, so we needed that massively.
Yeah, you turned it around massively, haven't you? It's like you're looking, like we were saying on the podcast as well. Like, you was due a decent run. You'd had a bad run of fixtures. It was time to turn it around, and it was definitely looking up.
We had a bit of confidence problems in terms of when you have a bad result against Altmar like that, and then the next game you go into Hearts and you concede in the first minute.
Yeah,
you know somebody's looking down on you in the wrong way. You're not getting a bit of help, but look, you ride the storm and you don't have a short-term vision. You look 8-10 weeks in the future and see how it ends up, and hopefully we can kick on. Obviously it'd be a waste if we don't kick on now.
Yeah, definitely. Just had a little look at where you are in the league, and you're still on 3rd position in Challenger Europe Rare Pro as we record in this Thursday morning.
Tonight's the big night, that's a problem.
Europa League, isn't it? And
I hope there's a few 1-eaches with own goals in there.
Yeah, no clean sheets.
Get the OGs out, get the red cards, penalty conceded, error led to goal. We want it all.
I'm actually a bit looking at my gallery now. My gallery's dropped a bit. I think it might be World Cup fever. To be fair, my 2 goalkeepers don't have any hands. Pazvir and Nadan. That could be a big part of it. Jesus Christ.
Pazvir didn't have a good one last night, did he?
But to be fair, the only thing that's saving him that he's got to stay in is Ajax aren't doing well. And he's not really the main problem.
No, they're having a bad run at the moment. I think, the fact they've had to play Napoli twice in quick succession didn't help. Napoli are on fire at the minute as well. I don't know if either of you have got to watch them this season, but they are a very good team to watch.
Watched
this
them
season.
Against Liverpool.
Yeah.
By the way, another one, just looking at my gallery, just to go off topic, Champions League. Greg Taylor was only 0.24 the other day. I done him in a trade. Why is he so cheap?
I don't know. I've noticed as well, see on the new, see if you look at the options, see for supers in particular, like Moritz Yen's super rare went for 0.3 on auction.
What?
Yeah.
Quinny.
Aye, I didn't see it until it was gone. The rares are going for 0.3. The super went for 0.3 on auction. Craig Gordon, the super rare I brought in, the rare auctioned for more. Now, fair enough,
I've seen that.
He's a it was you that told me that, actually. Fair enough, he's a 39 keeper, but still, you know what I mean? Like, it's so auctions, man. If you've got a wee wallet and you know who you want, like, you know, there could be some tasty wee bits lying around, you know.
Do you know, that's what I like about this podcast? Sorry to interrupt you, Stish.
No, go for it.
We give people the tips and the tricks. We don't keep them to ourselves and then post we made X amount of profit. We're actually killing ourselves because now people are going to bid against us for these. But is that not what a podcast's for?
Should be, right? Trying to do the right thing.
It's all about the end product, Tony.
Well, that's it.
Everyone.
I'm trying to bring into my game. It took me a while.
This is it. You just reminded me, actually. I'm just getting the auctions up to remind me of who it was, but I did a little refresh and saw like what was coming up in the auctions and looking at my favourites, and a Celtic card come up that I hadn't seen before. I think it's his first mint for the new season. Alexandro Bernabé, defender.
Yeah.
What are you saying on him? He's obviously in my watch list for a reason, but it's not a name I've seen in the auctions before. So his super rare's out this time tomorrow, or in a couple of hours' time from now. Is he one worth keeping an eye on, in your opinion?
It's hard to see when you play him, you know, because I think when we signed him, probably the reason you favouted him, U23 attacking fullback. But I think in the summer, people expected, this is the Ange fullback. He's going to be the number one guy. But Greg Taylor's went levels up.
Greg Taylor's the most touches in the league. You seen that?
No, I didn't. That's a great stat.
Most touch. Now I'm going to doubt myself, but I'm sure he said the most touches in the league. I think it was Ian Crocker who tweeted it.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. He's dying.
I'm going to
basically playing left midfield, you know.
He's a player.
So I was kind of looking at the Bernabeu as just a wee Greg Taylor handcuff kind of situation, because like if he does pick up 5 yellows or he's going to get rested and I know about it, maybe that's a bit useful. But again, like, you know, Taylor's one of these guys as well. It's hard to see him moving on from Celtic. So then, I don't know. That's the thing about a card like Bernabeu. Whereas with Ralston and Juranovic, it's a bit different, because even though Ralston's clearly the backup, Juranovic is expected to leave within 12 to 18 months at the longest, you know. Yeah. Whereas Taylor, I'm seeing Celtic accounts talking about Taylor being the next captain, and I don't see McGregor going anywhere, so I don't know why we're talking about next captains, you know. So you're then throwing down the road like 5, 6, 7 years, you know, if that's your point of view on it.
No, that makes sense. And it's good to have a Celtic kind of opinion on it, because I looked at it and I saw it and I thought, a Celtic player that I've not heard any of us talk about on the podcast. It's not someone that I can't even remember why I started following him. It might have been one of those kind of, I often will sort of like read those sort of like Stars of the Future type like articles, and then I'll just go on Sorare and just find them and just follow them, so that when their cards become available, they pop up in my feed. Yeah, and I think he's probably one of those that I must have read about and just started following. But do either of you like do that? Like read an article, start following people, or buy someone off the off chance that they do turn out to be as good as these like journalists make them out to be?
My Sorare view is probably too short term for that. Somebody has a good game, they're off my gallery, they're away, and I'm getting profit to try and grow somewhere. But no, I know what you mean. Maybe like I was just looking there at a goalkeeper, the boy Jack Wills at St Johnstone, and he was there when I was there.
Yeah,
and that was about 3-4 years ago. So I'm putting one and one together. Obviously, if he's been kept, he's rated. Does he then go in? But then I think do I waste 0.1 something or 0.2 on a goalkeeper that maybe will be for next year or the year after?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I've definitely got
goalkeepers. I think that's a move you need to do sometimes with goalkeepers, because like this year in particular, like I've sold maybe about 6 or 7 keepers that started off like that. But then when they come good, I don't care about them because I don't need them for a team. You know, they've just been sitting in the back waiting to come good. Mm-hmm. So like I definitely think a guy like that's got a place in, especially a gallery like yours, Tony, that's so built on trading, you know. Yeah, because goalkeepers take ages to come through, you know, in that good way where you get them for nothing and they turn into a fully fledged number one. You kind of need to do the distance on those ones. I'll normally carry 2 or 3 of those guys at a minimum, maximum 4 or 5, and then, you know, when they get back in the team. Decisives, you know, the Benfica guy, he was great last year under the last manager because they just fell out with him. It wasn't as if he was bad or did or anything. They just fell out and he get dropped, and then the manager gets sacked, and he'll be back in or he'll get transferred out.
Same with the boy Bodart at Standard Liège. Arnaud Bodart, he was under 23, he finished now, but he was the exact same. It was just a case of didn't fit the manager's plans, but you knew he was coming back, but his price stayed high. That was the problem.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look at my gallery now, and there's actually a lot of goalkeepers in my gallery who are just like with the grey DMP next to them, like they have barely played a game or haven't played, like you sort of be familiar with Xander Clark, and he's one of them but I'm quite happy to hold on to him because he's number 2 at a club with a good goalkeeper, but one that maybe only has another couple of seasons before Xander Clark starts getting phased in. I don't know, but Maduka Okoye, who obviously we were hoping would be number 1 at Watford and hasn't worked out for him, but he's still young, so there's no point selling him now. The minute he starts getting some game time or an injury happens to the current number 1, his price will definitely be up from where it is now. And even players like Yuya Oki at Antlers, who didn't really see any game time most of the season until recently, but then lost his place again. It's just like, with the J League though, there's always a lot of chopping and changing in the closed season. Yeah. So I don't really want to sell any sort of Japanese goalkeepers right now, just on the chance that they get a good move, or like Sergino, we talked about on the podcast before, and then someone came back and kind of let me know they'd listened to the pod and that Consadole have re-signed a Korean goalkeeper who left them, who's kind of like a bit of a club hero, and that means Sergino definitely won't be the number 1 next season. But a part of me is like, well, he's actually performed well enough that maybe he moves to one of the clubs that are being like promoted from J2, or another club picks him up, because you look at clubs like Shonan, who obviously have Tani in goal, who is owned by Gamba Osaka, who are probably going to want him back to use him as number 1 next season. That leaves Shonan without a number 1. They might take a Shigino or one of these other players that's moved. I'm expecting a lot of goalkeeper roundabout in Japan, and so part of me is just like tempted to just sit tight and hope that Shigino gets a move, because if I wanted to sell him now, my super rare is probably only going to get me about 0.2 because of his age.
Sure.
For the sake of 0.2, I may as well wait and see if he does get a move, because he is a good goalkeeper, even with his age in mind. He's definitely a better goalkeeper than his age suggests, and if he gets a move, I'm sure he's got another season as number 1 somewhere.
Yeah, sounds like it to me, man. On that of question you threw out there, Stish, like I had that situation with that guy at Bruges, Kamal Soa, where he was in my favourites list for probably like a year and a half, and he's always been dirt cheap. And again, I've said this a few times, so I won't go on about it, but like he's also popped off in form massively this year with Jukla, and I'm just like, I don't even remember why I followed him, but I should have bought him at some point because he was worth like nothing for ages. And I should have just went off, he's in my favourites list for some reason, just buy him for nothing and then wait for it to happen. So yeah, I've been there myself. Sometimes you can kind of follow all these no names, and then randomly they get a card, and you're like, who? Why did I follow this guy?
Lads, I've got a funny story. Well, it's not funny, but I had an apartment in Leuven, and then he signed, and I then had to negotiate with him to take my apartment.
Who's this?
He was the best. The boy Soa.
Oh, Soa.
And he was the best negotiator ever. I ended up leaving him an Xbox, a couch, everything for about £300. Because he knew I was screwed. He took the apartment off me. I didn't need to pay the rest of the lease. And then he trained a couple of times, but I didn't expect him to go into as bigger things as he did. Jesus, he's flying. He's a good player. He got sent off last night, didn't he? But he's been really good for them.
That's funny. See, when you commented on Alex's tweet saying you played with Jonathan Vieira, I think it's, and in that story there, it's mad at some of the actual players that you've came across through that wee stint or two in Belgium, eh?
Aye, quite a few big dogs, but it was, it's quite funny because you see a load of boys going and doing well, and you think, oh, I played with him. The most random one, I shared a room at Charlton with Marko Dimitrovic. You know who that is?
Goalkeeper.
I know the name, but I couldn't place where he is now.
They're both Seville.
Seville, that's it.
We both played a reserve game, my first ever game for Charlton. And then we shared a room and he was a quiet guy and I was like, oh, he's a nice guy, blah, blah, blah. And then I looked a couple of years later and I was like, he's flying. And then he got moved to Seville and I see him posting pictures with Rakitic and stuff. Just madness.
Who's the one player that like maybe you played with and thought this kid's going places and we maybe never heard of after? There must have been a few where...
Oh, there's been a few. Paul George when I was at Celtic was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Broke his leg and then it just never happened. Matthew Merton's another one I played with. He's one of the top scorers in Challenger Europe now, isn't he? For Leuven.
Oh, right, yeah. I seen his...
At Liège, wee boy Francois Marquet, don't know where he ended up. He was good. Quite a few good players. Boy Mehdi Carcel ended up at Benfica, Olympiacos. There's been a hell of a lot of players I've played with that have ended up going on to big things.
Belgium's one of those kind of busy leagues, where so many people kind of come into it for bits.
Yeah, it's mad. It was just...
And Charlton, isn't it?
Well, Charlton I played with the boy Goodmunson, and now he's played a few hundred games for Burnley. Charlton was mad because I seen some good players come in, not get a game, and then go and have an amazing career.
Yeah.
But it's mad, I don't know, there's quite a few,
So what did you find when you was playing at Charlton? Whereabouts was you staying in London? Did you have like an apartment down this way?
I lived in Greenwich, right at the O2, and then I lived... what's the name of that again? Chislehurst,
yeah, that's not too far.
And then I moved right in, see the Intercontinental, there was flats at the O2.
Yeah.
So I stayed on the Thames. It was nice, to be fair. Cost an arm and a leg, but it was nice.
Yeah, I can definitely feel the difference coming from up north, especially like to come down to those sort of... Greenwich ain't cheap at all. Yeah, Chislehurst's one of the nicest areas in South London, in my opinion. It's like...
Yeah, it was lovely. It was perfect for me as well. I just lived a normal life, just chilled, but it was 10 minutes for the training ground, 15 minutes for the training ground, and it was just different from Glasgow because it wasn't a fishbowl. So
yeah,
I loved my time at Charlton, man. I thought it was brilliant.
No, I can't knock that. Definitely not. So back on the subject of Sorare, you've had a good week this week in Challenger. You've been due a good week for a while, haven't you? Every time you come on here, you seem disappointed that something's not gone your way. You've almost got there. So what are you hoping for from that prize pool? If you can stay in that tier 0, is there anything in that prize pool in particular that like would be like at the top of your want list?
Well, to answer your first question, Stish, about getting close.
Yeah.
In Underdog last week, although he was a sub, my captain ended up with 103 points. I got a decisive from Van Zier. Olsen get 50. So that's a good start.
Yeah.
Adoy sub.
Yeah.
Ruined. In All-Star, Griezmann got a 98. João Mario got a 101. Pazvir threw a goal in. So I'm thinking, right, can't get any worse. Adan conceded in the last minute, I'm sure.
Yeah. He had the clean sheet wiped out, yeah.
Valencia got a hat-trick. Paqueta got an assist. My 2 super rares didn't go over 49. I end up scoring in my Challenger Europe Pro. Davy Roof gets dropped. I didn't think the weekend could get any worse, but to this week, I don't think I'll get a star rare, I'll be honest with you. I think that's only the top 3 spots, and I'm third at the moment. I think I'll end up with a tier 1 rare, and I had a look last night. I don't want Pazvir, he's giving me nightmares. I would love Van Aken, Sillison, or maybe even a Grimaldo.
Does it feel extra sweet as well that like the team that you're there with is the lads? You like put it out and got the stack and you've done the business. That must feel nice.
I was buzzing to check it after the game. To be honest. I was buzzing there.
That must have been some buzz for sure, man.
I said to Ryan Edwards, what are you doing getting booked? But I get booked as well, but tried not to give that away. But no, I wanted to put a stack together because I thought, why not? Well, I trust the boys. I think they're good players. It's been a long time coming. I think I said to you a while ago I was going to, but I just couldn't. I couldn't get a hold of a goalkeeper for a good price, so I bit the bullet and I paid half an ETH for him. And then I done the same in Ulti Champs, by the way.
Did you?
I finished 16th and got a reward. So, and at the weekend I won the full. Was it Epic or something? I won the full thing by. I was waiting on me and Jimmy McGrath, and we both scored. So
Nice.
it's nice to get a wee bit of rewards. This October must be a good. Wake me up when September ends was playing.
Does any at the end of the game, do you literally get your phone out and show the players in the changing room like how they've done?
I said to Dale, over 100 go on by, and then he went, "Is that good?" I was like, "Brilliant! You keep it up."
He put one in here because I used his unique this midweek as well in a super rare team that I had to use a rare goalkeeper in and had to throw a bunch of sort of randoms in. But I'm like, I can't have a unique and not use it. But also looked at the fixture and thought it's a pretty decent fixture. So the other players that I put next to him all had a half decent fixture, but there was a couple of rotation risks. But Odell and Cosson who ruined it for me yesterday. He was on a decent score.
See with that unique.
Yeah.
In the price of, so that's a 1-0 win, right? See with your unique in the price of the Dundee United team. See if you put that in a Dundee United squad, I know that's worth a lot more to you, not under 23 and that. You're probably going to win rewards 5 or 6 times a year because we're expected to win 5 or 6 games with a clean sheet.
Yeah.
So you're probably talking it pays back your unique.
Yeah, if you could, there definitely will be people that probably look at Sorare and think, especially like people who have a team on there that they support as well. It'd just be like, do you know what? I'm just going to buy 5 players from the team I support, watch them, and just put that out every week, and not have to worry about all the scouting and the trading and that. And like, if you was a Dundee United fan and you thought, you know what, I'll buy the Dundee team, get 1 unique, get 2, couple of super rares, whatever. And just put 2 or 3 Dundee teams out every week in different, like the different scarcities and that. But like you said, if you wanted to do that and you didn't want to deal with all of that, you only need like that one weekend where they do slightly better than the rest. And, like if you look at towards the end of last season, how many like good results you put out there, you'd expect to have won rewards in Challenger, All-Star, depending on where you put them.
And the reward pool's bigger now. I know it might only be 10%, but it is bigger. Like I don't know how it would have worked the other night with an Underdog squad. I'd actually like to check that. I know the rewards aren't very good for Underdog during the week, but you'd probably be talking, because we're a team that's mid-table-ish, we're going to be under 50s a lot of our players, because say you go and score 10 goals a season, that's 25 games that you don't score. So you're not going to end up under 50.
Yeah.
So in the Underdog, when your team hits, whether you put the goalkeeper on 3 players or 4 outfield players, you could probably end up winning a tier 1 super rare a few times a year as well. So I think there's value in the team you support. For instance, Motherwell, if there's a Motherwell collector or if there's an Aberdeen collector, Hibs, you probably find that there is value in it because teams are going to win a couple of times a year. I'm actually considering going Antwerp, but the thing that's put me off is Butez's price, and he's not a World Cup player. He's still 1.2, and I just think I'd rather stick with Adan. I know he's not got a game this week, but I know he's been throwing them in, but normally Sport Lisbon should keep clean sheets.
Another thing on that point as well is when you stack a side like that isn't an Ajax and isn't a Bruges or whatever, then like the week that they do bang, no, there's very few other people that are playing that stack, if any at all. And another thing about playing teams in that sort of bottom half of the league, if you stack one of them teams and they beat one of the sort of top 4 teams or something, the whole team is scoring like 70, 80 plus. And no one else has picked that team because they've got Ajax that weekend or whatever. A friend of mine stacks Go Ahead All-Stars. I don't know if it's for that reason, but it's just like he's just ended up with a stack of Go Ahead All-Stars. And I said to him, I said, the one week that they beat like PSV or something, you're going to be laughing all the way to the bank because no one's going to be picking that stack. But if you get that result, he's got a go-ahead All-Stars stack. And there's some good individual players there. But in that 1 week, if he uses that stack, that they do beat a top 4 team or something like that, and the whole team's like 80 plus, you are definitely looking at your tier 0. You know what I mean? Like and that will pay for the stack on its own, probably.
Bro, I think a high tier 1 pays for my goalkeeper the other night.
Yeah.
And then my Levitt was 0.15. So say we're talking 0.65. If I get my goalkeeper and Levitt for free, and McMahon was 0.01 actually. So if I win a reward over 0.65 this week, then
pay for it,
yeah, I'm buzzing. I can't complain because that's it paid for. I can then sell the reward and have the ETH that I had before the game week.
That's the dream. That's the goal, isn't it?
So, and then I've got 2 super rares, a Ryan Edwards and a Tony Watt super rare, which I had before. And then if they win again, I can then say, right, Ryan Edwards was 0.25 and Tony Watt was 0.25. So if I win another one, that's that paid for again, and that will probably be my most fruitful because I'm not going to trade day, lads, and I trade everybody else. That's probably the only ones that I'm going to have a bit of consistency with. The other night, I love Bakasetas, but I sold him for 0.66 because I can't reject 0.66. I just can't do it.
Yeah,
I got him for like maybe 0.4. He's done well for me, but because I trade too much, he's not won me too many rewards. But I kept Joe Mario, and I'm just going to keep him in the team because he plays every week. He's on pens. He'll do me.
Yeah.
But just that, while we're at that, is the Portuguese league off this weekend or something?
It is. No Portugal. I think it's just the way the fixtures run. I think they're playing cup games maybe at the weekend or something. Right. But there's a few leagues like that this weekend. So Challenger's actually quite open. So a good Dundee United stack, Tony, could be the power play this weekend.
I know. What lads usually help me build my team. What's the script with Jackson Maleka? I got him in a trade because I had little bits I wanted to get rid of. I think it was like Davy Roof and that. I seen the price dropping, and I got him in. What's the script with him? Because he plays sometimes and then he doesn't play others. And then was he just rested last week?
I know that Channy Sports and the Penfez love him. They've both got cards of him. And last year he was at Adana, the team with all the money in that.
Yeah.
And then he's went to Besiktas and he's like, obviously a U23 striker and highly rated. And I think it is just a wee bit he's moved up to a bigger team and it's just trying to break into the best 11 at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on fire last season. I think there was lots of talk of, like, in Belgium of like, why did you let him go? You should never have let him go. Look at what he's done out there in Turkey. And then obviously he got a bigger move. And yeah, I think like when he was just saying, he probably just still bedding in a little bit there.
It stinks a bit of a fallout, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm just looking at his recent. He doesn't look like he's scored in the last 3. He didn't play in the last
he'll
game.
know 100%.
No, I mean at Liège, sorry, it stinks a fallout.
Oh, sorry. Oh, got you.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that was weird. That
Liège is a strange club. I was there for a bit, like I said to you, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a fallout because it's just a bit mad. It's a club that expects the Celtic and Rangers success. But unrealistic because you're not going to get it. That's it. End off. You're not going to get it. That's it. Unlucky.
Might as well just go home now.
That's it. Yeah. Without being a bad, I was going to use a swear word, but without saying anything, they're not going to get it, and that's the thing. That's it.
Talking about building stacks and stuff, before we came on the podcast today, last night, as Quinny mentioned, we were talking to the boys on the Sorare Odyssey, and they do a segment on there, the bargain basement. So having a little look yesterday at like where the value is, and when someone asks me for a bargain player, I'm always looking really cheap. I'm not talking about like, oh, this player's undervalued. I'm like, who's a player that I can sell, like the idea of buying to, like my brother who doesn't want to spend loads of money on it, but I can go, here is a rare that you can get for like 30 quid who plays every week. So did quite a lot of digging around, found a few players. But then today I started thinking about limiteds because, like the limited market is so like up and down all the time. And like on average, like the limited cards will be about a tenth the price of a rare. So I did think like I found a player yesterday for like 16 quid who plays every week, and that is his rare. So I thought to myself, what's his limited going for? It goes for under a quid. So I started doing a search on Sorare data. Just like I want to show me every player who's played 95% of the last 40. And then I just order them by like what their L5 is, and set the like maximum price to like 2 quid, because basically, and then I started going deeper in it. I'm like, okay, there's actually like a few hundred players you can buy that play every week that are less than 2 quid. Some of them, like their last 5 was over 55. I'm like, this is mental. Then I start going into it a bit more, thinking about like the Underdog. I'm thinking, how cheap can you enter Underdog? So you just put the L15 to like a maximum of 50, let the rest do whatever. And then I even took like away like the last, the L40, like you've played 90%, just to show me every player under 2 quid that has like an L15 of 50 and like has done something in the last 5. And it's amazing how easy it is to put a team together for the Underdog without buying a goalkeeper. You could do it for less than 10, 15 quid. And I think that's amazing. I don't know what you sort of think about that, but you can enter a
everybody
tournament.
can afford that, yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think that's competitive? Yes.
That's the big if. If you can find a player that has a decisive in them, then it's a little bit of a. Then it's like it's a semi gamble, isn't it? Because like you don't stand to lose it, because you can use that team again next week if it doesn't like hit a big score. Yeah. But if it does hit a big score, you've essentially spent about 8 to 10 quid, and you'll probably win a card that, if you hit in the tier 3, it might only be worth what you paid for one of the others. But if its averages are better than what you've got, then you're building, right? And then you've obviously got those tournaments like the limited kickoff and stuff like that, where you might be able to use a couple of players. But I think we're finally starting to see Sorare at a position where it's hard to argue that it's cheap to get in when you've got that tournament there that you can enter. And like I said, but like to answer your question, is it competitive? I don't know. Like I didn't get as far as looking at like what was the lowest score to win a card in Underdog this weekend. But I'd imagine it to be slightly above, like let's say like the L15 of 50 is the max. So you have 4 players plus one of them's you captain one in Underdog, don't you?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So the maximum score would be like basically like 300 would be their average. So if you can get a score together of about 400,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I need to look at it, because there's a lot of
entries. If you do get over 300, you can definitely be in the mix for prizes in Underdog, depending on. But I think the thing with the L15 under 50 part is that you can get done over by big players that have just crept under it. So like maybe see that triangle, Stish. I'd be really interested to see how much success you'd have at that Underdog 45. Because that's a bit harder even to squeeze a Goretzka into, or an Mbappe or something, that's just been on a bad L5 or something,
Once we finish this podcast, I might put, there is an Underdog limited 45 this weekend. Be interested to see that, like, because there's less entrants in that one. Let's have a look actually at where we're at the moment. So
player quality has to be worse in terms of the actual team submitted.
Exactly that. And it's hard to find a player that plays every week that averages under 45. Like you probably putting a bit of rotation fodder in there usually. Yeah. But if you could get 4 starters under 45, you must be in with a shout. Surely, 4 starters, and they only need to put up an all-round score of like 9 or 10, and you should be getting right in the mix, because the Underdog Limited currently has 8,378 entrants for 1,700 cards to win. The under 45 version is 5,000 for 750 cards. So it's much better odds, isn't it? And if you do win a tier 3, chances are it is going to fall into that limited 45. And then you've got the kickoff, which is more aimed at people with smaller galleries. Sorare made the announcement this week that someone's fire alarm going off there.
Yeah, somebody's round my back, I think, trying to rob me.
But yeah,
With those standard Liège fans.
Yeah.
Oh, they broke in one time. Oh, they stormed the training ground one time. Don't get that wrong. They must have seen how I was playing.
Oh mate. Yeah. Sorry. So to get back on the kickoff. Sorry, that's tickled me. The kickoff. Sorare announced that people with more than 10 limiteds won't be able to enter it. It's going to be aimed purely at people who are just getting started, which is good, I think. And at the moment, 8,000 people enter that. But I reckon, when that kicks in, you might be seeing less than 2,000 entries in that. Maybe slightly more, depending. Like, if you think about it, if you've only got 10 limiteds, you're going to.
How many limiteds do you have, Stish?
Huh?
How many limiteds do you have?
Oh, do you know what? That's a good question.
I don't think you've got many, do you? You're not a big limited guy, are you?
No, but I've got a fair few. But I try to. I've actually got a lot. I've got 70.
You're 70.
I've got 18.
18. Oh, Tony could get back into limited kickoff. No bother
I've got
then.
18 and 9, 10. 10 of them are Mikey Johnstone.
Oh, there you go.
Do you know what I'll do? I'll give away 10 Mikey Johnsons after this, so put it out in a tweet. I will give them away because I don't even need. I bought them thinking I'd make a profit.
I think you still might.
Made a profit.
I'd probably still hang on to them, Tony. But if you want to give them away,
I think the reason I've got. I think the reason I got so many is I bought them quite early, and it's just hard to. They go down in value so much over time because the supply gets so high that the price of entry in limiteds is a lot lower now. But I think it's where it needed to be. Do you know what I mean? Like when this was introduced, the idea was it was going to make it cheaper to get in. But looking at some of the, I spent 420 quid on a Fekir card. Like he's probably worth an 8 for that now. What's he cost now? Let's have a look at his price now.
I think he's still quite high. It won't be that much, but I think he's still quite high.
I mean,
he's
£78, so he's about an eighth of what I paid. It is, yeah. Is it an eighth of what I paid? Yeah. What? That's fearful. My maths is awful, but yeah, I think that Underdog limited 45. I might have a serious look at that because I don't know if I've entered a team into it just yet. I could probably do it with the cards I've got, but I might buy. Try and buy a team to enter that for less than 10 quid and see how it gets on. Just to see if how competitive you can be for that sort of money. There must be for that 45, like you said, I think it will fluctuate a lot more because it'd be very hard to sneak a decent player into that one. Whereas
I was looking at the reward pool as well. Top, it's basically the tier 1 start from 45th, right? But even just in your head to keep it simple, if you think 1 week you get top 50, if you're picking up a tier 1 and then obviously top 5, if you really jackpotted, a tier 1 to a star limited, like once a season, twice a season from a £10 team or something, I don't think you'd be too miserable about that, would you?
No, you can't really complain. So something you can enter every week or move into different divisions as your gallery sort of grows. But it just goes to show, to get started, when you get that question quite a lot, like, how much do I need to get started? And it's like, well, how much do you want to spend? Because you could spend loads and enter multiple teams. But if you just wanted to get started, have a look at Underdog Limited 45. I suppose, I don't know how much access you get on Sorare data without paying for it. I haven't looked at it from an unpaid perspective. But if you can search by score, which maybe you can't, I don't know. But let's say you can't, you pay a £5 for a 1 month subscription on Sorare data, and then you spend a tenner on a team or whatever, or a bit more, like maybe 20 quid. Let's say 20 quid. Get your £5 subscription and spend 15 quid on 4 players to enter that 45 and see how you get on.
I think everything that you pay for on Sorare data, to put it in a nutshell, I think most of the stuff is the stuff that saves you time. So I think I've heard them say stuff like that before, that you can kind of get access to everything, but if you pay for it, you don't really need to work too hard to find it. It's all kind of at your fingertip.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe,
They'll make you money if you actually use it right, so it is worth. I've had 1 or 2 tweets over the last few months saying son, a bit costly. Yeah, but what other tool is going to be free that literally helps you pick your team?
And buy players and sell players and get done that. You make sure you don't get done over in trades and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I use it. I use it all the time. It's always open. It's embarrassing when someone like comes around my house. It's like, "What are you up to?" I'm so at work, and my whole screen is just so red. If I was employed by someone, I'd be banging trouble, mate. I tell you, I don't know how people go to an office and also play so rare on the weekend. Because, if anyone's seen my screen, it would be horrendous, mate. Try and explain it.
Obviously, we train at 10:30. We have to be in at 10:15. For a good 15 minutes of that, I'm on my phone checking my gallery, checking my stuff. So it works out well. But if I was in an office, I'd be in trouble. It would have to be my full lunch break. I wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
Just sack the lunch.
Sat outside with the laptop open.
You would be, but like I've the whole time I've been kind of doing this, I've been like kind of self-employed and whatever. But in other jobs I've had in the past, like call centers and whatever, if I was working in any of those places and all this, man, I'd be freaking out. Like, imagine you get an offer from somebody, and you're chained to a desk and you're not really meant to have your phone out because it breaks like data protection and the law and all that stuff. And you're like, I've got a 10 offer from a Veerman. I need to go and I need to talk to this guy on Discord. Like, go to fuck off.
The guy takes it away 10 minutes later, begging for 7
I bet there's some amazing stories, some listeners out there that have been like caught on so rare at work. Like, we'd love to hear them if you're listening.
Oh, that's quite a good one, Stish. Aye, we could get that. It's
a quality one.
Yeah. Do you know what? Actually,
if you're watching the video version of this, that's the comment in the video. And if you see it on Twitter,
we could have a wee 5-10 minute segment next week. We could read them out.
We should. Yeah, sure. We want some bangers, please. If you've ever been caught at work or using so rare. We want to hear what the disciplinary action was after.
Or if you've ever been that guy, you know that meme, and it's the wee boy shouting in the bird's ear in the nightclub.
I just got 2 ETH for him.
It's like Football Manager, but it's not. But it's like
I can avoid for sure.
Yeah. So
talking about limited kickoff, I sent a picture into our group chat earlier. I've got Tony Limited, the one that I won, the special magic one, going into that. And I got a gifted card this week. Surface to Air Missile donated a Quinny Limited to me. So the limited kickoff this week, it's Quinny and Tony going in with my commons. The last limited kickoff they'll let me into with my 150 limiteds.
How come I can't get any academy and all that? What are they?
That's like if you're new. You need like 8 cards to get into it.
That's it. Yeah, they should really filter that out for anyone whose gallery is too big, to be fair. Oh, you can. You can now. There's a button that says hide locked competitions.
Oh, yeah. Sweet. I've just found that button too. Yeah. What's this?
Yeah, decent that.
Really all the unique crap and all that.
Before I forget, on the subject of like the audience getting involved, before we started recording, I did put a tweet out that said any questions, and we got a couple of questions here.
Oh, class.
So, first one is from Ron Royale. Any trading plans for the World Cup and new Asia/America seasons next year? When will we see the bottom for Asia and America cards? What do you reckon?
I'll say on America cards, nevish. Just kind of, nevish, because it's the middle of November, so really October, I beg your pardon. So between now to the end of November, no one wants to think about MLS. No one wants to look at it or touch it. If you've got playoff cards, cool. If you don't, you don't. Just forget about it. But then the league comes back end of February. So once you leave November and then it's December and January, it's a 2-month run-up. And that's when every division, people start to think, right, if I got a goalkeeper, how much is Carlos Heel today? Do I need an under-23 defender? And then for December and January is when, like, some players, their dip will disappear quickly because they'll be high-demand guys. And then some guys will drag out a little bit longer. With Japan and all that, it's kind of hard to say. And I don't have any strategies. But for MLS, I think the bottom is nevish.
I'd agree with that, because I sold quite a few of my MLS cards around this time last season, thinking I was being smart selling them now and rebuying them in the closed season. But actually, this was the time that I ended up selling them it was the worst time to sell. So it probably, from the other end, people who bought the cards off me had a much better end of the deal, because I was looking to rebuy them in the closed season, thinking people are going to be trying to sell the cards while they're not playing. But it was definitely like, with the last couple of games to play, playoffs coming, I sold like Hani Mukhtar. I sold loads of good cards, and their price never went as low as it did when I sold them. I thought it would go lower, but it didn't. So I would agree with that it's about now. And I think that Japan was maybe, I'd say the bottom was like a couple of games back, but because of the World Cup and everything that's going on, I would say like Japan and America are about the same this year because their season's ending now. Same with Korea as well. I reckon the bottom for all of those sort of divisions is right now. Any division with like a game or two left, like now is the time to buy for next season if you've got it available.
Especially people that win rewards of these cards for the next 2 months, because
it's true.
Because some of those markets will be super quiet, and if sometimes you get a reward, you don't want an American card, you want to move it on, and if that's the guy that you're hunting for, if the reward goes to the right person who's just wanting it gone, then the next. What about you, Tony? Are you strategizing like mad over this period, or what are you doing?
I'm just trying to buy as many World Cup players as possible, just to try and have something to play with, have a beefed up gallery in the World Cup. But it's hard because I'm trying to then fill out my teams as well. My gallery's obviously not got 1,000 players, do you know what I mean? I'm still needing to kind of manipulate it a wee bit, but I'll probably, all the rewards I get, if I get a reward this week, I'll sell it, buy a World Cup player, and just try and kind of attack that. I'm going for kind of Thomas Muller / Nicholas Sully. That's my next two.
Nice.
Quite looking at the top end of things then.
Yeah, I think Thomas Sully, to be fair, is a good price. He puts up good scores. He plays for Germany. So I think he would possibly be one I'd be looking for. But Thomas Muller, again, would fit into my all-star team. He would give me a chance to win rewards to and through the World Cup. So it just depends, to be honest. I'm not overly bothered at the moment, but World Cup's probably 70% of my focus, and then the other 30% is just obviously making trades and getting rewards at the moment.
I'd say my sort of focus around the World Cup is slightly different in that, like, I want to be able to enter teams, but I don't know like how good or bad the sort of World Cup specials will be. So I'm not too concerned with like picking up players who I think will be in the World Cup squads at the minute.
I think massive, Stish.
You think it'll be big, yeah?
I think they'll release countries like...
Yeah, I'm expecting that too, to be fair.
And there'll be a lot more rewards. I think maybe 10% more than now. Plus, a lot of people won't be playing it as much. I think your cards will then go up in price because there'll be individual World Cup ones, for instance. I'm guessing.
As teams get knocked out as well, there's less of a supply available to play with.
So it's like you say, you pay money for the big cards just now, and if they go through, then there's a better chance of winning.
But I found that in the Euros as well, because I had quite a good Euros, and there was one of the regrets that I made during the Euros was I had like a 4-player team, no goalkeeper, and I needed a Manuel Neuer was like the only goalkeeper playing that in that game week. And I thought, if I buy a Neuer, I'll be one of the few people that had a 5-player team out that week. And I didn't buy it, and then if I had bought a Neuer, I would have won a super rare Paul Pogba with the score that I put. I should have just bought it. I didn't buy it. I was trying to haggle down the price that I wanted, and I was trying to save myself about 40 quid. It was stupid. It was like negligent, really.
That's a horror story.
Yeah, it was. It's
you're telling it quite calmly.
Yeah, it's horrible looking at it. I mean, Pogba's not been amazing since, but that card.
It's Paul Pogba.
Exactly, it's Paul Pogba.
Man United fan as you are.
I know that it haunted me for a few months after. So a part of me will be thinking through the World Cup, but another part of me is strategizing outside of any World Cup sort of like exclusive tournaments. Looking
Can
at
I make you feel sick now, Stish?
Go on then.
The France version of Paul Pogba, was it the 1 out of 10?
It could have been. It was one of the France ones, though. Yeah.
So if you paid that extra £40, you would have made £10,910 on the 5th of the 7th, 2022.
Oh, I'm off, boys. I'll see you later. Yeah, it's been fantastic this week, mate.
Catch you later.
That's horrendous. That's horrendous. I wish you'd never said that.
I know, but we're on a podcast where people love to see your downfall as well as your goodness. So
It's
it
not all.
hurts me to bring the negativity. However, I'd love to
Oh my
just
God.
slap you right in the side of the cheek at the moment.
You just did, just with your words instead of actual hand. Man, that's horrible. But yeah, I've been to go back to that. Well, yeah, I've been looking at the La Liga Smart Bank cards. There's a few divisions that do play through the World Cup, so I've been looking at players there that I can pick up that can make me like competitive in All Star or under 23. Because I think that's the main thing with U23. I've got Muric, who, you know, the championship reconvenes during the knockout stages. So once the knockout stages are there, you don't necessarily have to have like a Diogo Costa. And you can still play through the World Cup, even though there won't be many U23 goalkeepers active.
By the way, is Diogo Costa the best goalkeeper on the platform? Every time I look at him, he's getting massive scores.
Couldn't believe
He's
what he
got
did
to
last
be,
night, man. How can I think this is something they need to change next year when they update the scoring matrix, but a goalkeeper getting a triple decisive and not being guaranteed 100 is criminal.
How about triple decisive did he get?
Clean sheet, pen save, assist.
Oh my days.
How has he not scored 100? That's mental.
He
finished on 90 odd, you know, is about as decisive as 80. Surely a keeper, man, once you get a triple decisive, what the fucking else can they do?
Get a bonus. Get a bonus.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Clean
Give
sheet,
him
save a
another
pen,
one.
and then do something else. Surely
Get
100
another
then.
decisive, like a triple decisive. Like if you get 3 different decisives, that should be like a instant 100.
I was
For a
looking at
keeper,
somebody.
definitely.
I was looking at somebody who could have went above me, but I don't think he has yet, to be honest. With in my Challenger Europe, he had a Diogo Costa, but I don't know where he is, to be honest.
He's definitely having a good season. I mean, he should be nailed on for Portugal in the World Cup the way he's playing at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah. By the way, 2 games in a row, 2 out of 3, sorry, I've had Joe Mario on my bench, and he's had 2 decisives out of 3 in the Champions League. Not in my squad, sorry. I don't back him every time, and it's pathetic for me because he's one of the best players I've ever had in the game.
It's quality, isn't he? I had one for a wee while. He's a solid player, man. The good thing about him is he does a bit of everything. But see, guys like him, because he isn't like, I don't know, I can't think of another example, but like he's not like glamorous. You know what I mean? He's not like, oh, you've got João Mario. He's not like, you know, he's a wee bit like, maybe he doesn't have a great game and you bench him, and then I've been there as well, where he drops out a 78 or something. You're like, I should have. Of course he was going to do that. And he's on pens and stuff.
I've got the other João Mario who plays Supporto, and I think I paid 3 times what his price is now for his limited, and I bought the wrong João Mario.
Well, that kind of leads into another one of those questions that came to you on Twitter, Stish, from Delboy. We seem to be in an extended bear market since the spike in prices at the beginning of the season. Do you think there's anything Sorare should do to address this? Yada, yada. Let's slow down auctions, increase ETH rewards, whatever. I think in terms of like, we kind of spoke about auction prices, rares versus supers earlier on, and obviously we went into the sub £2 category on limited with Stishy Boy earlier. I think a lot of this stuff in the market is like, in terms of what happens on auctions, is, you know, there's just not that much, you know, competition on the primary markets. More people are just settled with teams and stuff, and are more likely to go into the market and try and trade and get a one-upmanship, because when you go into the auctions, for example, which is probably where this statement really comes from, like you're using your card, you're using your wallet, you're using money, you're not using collateral like cards or I'll throw in this extra piece for you or whatever. So that kind of limits a lot of people, like in terms of the user base, because when that auction's clocking off, if you've not got the excess to fight for it, like I had with the Craig Gordon, like I wanted that super rare, but I had no ETH available to me. And then it went for cheapest chips, and I ended up trading a goalkeeper against it. The floor price was 0.55. Coronel, the Red Bulls keeper, because he's got 1 game left, and I thought this guy's going to see this as a good deal. He's going to see an upgrade on his price from spending 0.4ish on the Gordon. He's getting a card off me, it's worth a wee bit more. But I know, like, that card's probably going to go down to about 0.4 over the next week or two anyway, as they get eliminated from playoffs and go into off season for that.
Yeah.
The point being is, like, the kind of bear market thing for me, I think it's like, it depends on what you're looking at, you know, because in terms of the secondary market, like there's great velocity on that from what I can see in terms of trades and you know, even secondary purchases on cards. But the auctions are really weird now. Like if you've got an ETH wallet, or if you've got card wallet, then the auction house has some amazing bargains to be got there, because there's just much less competition there than now.
Yeah, I think I rarely get too involved in auctions at the moment. I'm still hunting that elusive third unique, and I often find that like I'll try and spot something that kind of like ticks the boxes for me. But there is a few big players in, especially in the U23 market, that will try and win. I guess like almost any of the top or any sort of like under 23 card that puts up half decent scores and plays every game. It's really hard to pick up like a U23 that is like a speculative buy on the auction market. So I find that like they're pretty well contested, and it's really hard. You know, like obviously we got really lucky with the Levitt and the Lehan bomb. I'm always trying to like win a unique for like 2 to 3 ETH, and you know every time I think I've spotted one that maybe people don't know about just yet, or you know has a bit of an orange score next to their name. They come few and far between now, and I find that I'm always sort of up against the Banzai or the Nanzos, and it's like as soon as those guys start bidding against you, you're not getting the card. Like uh, there was one the other day, I can't remember the name of the user, but it was a Bordeaux player, and I thought, oh, this is like a D2 Bordeaux player. Thought this might be a good one for me, and then I start bidding, and the person I'm bidding against literally has the Bordeaux badge as their like as their. I was like, I'm not winning this. This person is not going to let this guy go. Like a hot prospect for the future. So I had to just let it go, and I think in the end it went for about 6 ETH. So there's way more than I would have wanted to get it for. I just wonder if the days are gone. I think it's like at the top end of the bidding, the super rares and the uniques, they're hotly contested. Whereas at the lower end, the limiteds and the rares, this might be where people are sort of like saying, "Oh, there's a dip when we're in a bear," because maybe some of the rares and limiteds are going for cheaper than we'd expect them to go for. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in the long term. It's more of like a midterm problem where, as most of these limited players that are being onboarded now that are getting in nice and cheap, they want to progress on, and if they do kick on and decide they want to go into the rare market is maybe a little bit more affordable now than it was, and most of that is down to the supply of players being a lot larger. There's a lot more players to choose from, and the question poses, like, is that because there are too many auctions, or a lot of things that we were moaning about before, like, oh, there's not enough rewards. Now there's loads of rewards, people are winning more cards, therefore the spread of people winning cards is larger, which maybe floods the secondary market a little bit with cards that aren't hitting the right scores for whatever reason. But the more these tournaments pop up, like Underdog 45s, in any given game week, some of those weird tier 2, tier 3s might actually see a little spike in their price because they have a good fixture, they're going to play, and their L15 is like 50. Therefore, they become one of the useful players for that week for people that are trying to hit like a specialist team or an underdog team. And I think there's got to be more ways that we haven't seen yet. But I think that underdog and specialist does give a little bit more utility to those cards that they didn't have. So to credit to the So Rare team, they have been answering some of these questions up to this point. It's just like how many more tournaments can they get away with adding? Do you know what I mean? At the moment, there's got to be other ways that we can utilize these cards. We can't just keep adding more and more tournaments, in my opinion, because that just means more and more cards being given out, which creates this cycle of the same problem that people are maybe asking the question of now. But do either of you have any ideas on what other ways we might be able to give utility to cards that maybe people don't want? Because I see it myself. Like I've definitely been trying to sell some of those less attractive cards, and they can be, they can go a few weeks if you like without an offer or like an inquiry. But any ideas on how we can give more utility to these cards?
It's hard because that's the risk you take when you've got cards that aren't doing too well. Like, I think Sorare probably need to take a hard stance and be like, right, like the one I said about the Muller, he's got a chance to go to the final, so he's got to be expensive. Whereas countries, I don't know, say Qatar for instance, because that's they'll be worthless because you'll get 3 games out of them that they might not win, and it would be hard to shift on. But it's like anything, if what you buy, and if it's not worth, it's hard to shift. Do you know what I mean? I'm guilty as sin for doing it with super rares for the underdog competition, and then think, why are these guys not selling? But they're not selling because I'm buying the crap. Do you know what I mean? I'm buying the crap and hoping for the best. But sometimes it works out, because sometimes somebody goes on a good run, they do all right, and then I end up with a card or with a bit of profit. But I think Sorare are always going to have that problem, because they can't just choose to release the top 6 players every team. Do you know what I mean? You can't. I think Underdog and Specialists really helped that, because I've seen people win Specialists with cards who I'm thinking, how has he got that score?
Yeah.
But he has, because the person's chosen. The person's probably going to win a reward worth a third of their gallery or a half of their gallery. So I think so. They are trying. I think they're doing the best, and I think with more users onboarded, they're putting a wee 10% more prize pool or whatever. I think that's fair, but it might not be the prizes we want, but at least it's something. I know what you mean. In an ideal world, how do we get every card worth something? But I just don't think it will happen.
No, you can't. You can't. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, it is the game is the game. Like, the top scoring players will always be the most expensive ones. It makes no sense that, like, a kid that sits on the bench 5 weeks out of every 10 is worth more than a Messi for whatever given reason on the weekend. Like, and that would probably cause more of an uproar than the problem that we see now, really. Because I think the game is the game. The expensive cards are expensive because they are Erling Haaland. Like, Erling Haaland is the expensive card because he's justified it with his scores he puts up, the utility you're getting from him, and the collectability if this blows up as much as we expect it to in the future. But it is hard, isn't it? Because everyone wants utility for the cards they win. You know, like, I won 4 cards this weekend. It was like a really good game week for me, but they weren't particularly great cards, you know. But it is gutting, because you want, like, you want to be excited when you open your cards and like, oh, that was that player that I've been trying to get hold of. But it's hard, isn't it? It is. I guess it's hard. Like, you got to roll with the punches, and I think this, as your gallery gets bigger, as I've experienced, like, I've been fortunate enough to win some great cards and kept hold of them, and they've helped me win more cards. But it does also mean that, like, a lot of my wins are quite underwhelming. But I just think that this is a great problem to have. Like, moaning about winning bad cards, I just feel, I feel a bit like, winning any card, it should be good.
Yeah.
But then I guess it's like people want to be able to sell it. That's the problem, isn't it?
But then, what world can you win what you win on this platform? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of how I sit with it as well.
There's no other place. Honestly, there's no other place you can get a return the way you get a return here. It's madness. Like,
Yeah.
Sorare is ahead of the curve. I believe that. I honestly do. But it's just, I know a lot of people want to win more, which is fine. I totally get that. But I'm just happy to win anything.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel still, to be honest. Like, you kind of hope that card, when you open it, is going to be like a banger. But if it's not, it doesn't. I see people online getting so wound up about it, and it surprises me, because, like, you kind of feel a bit like, oh, gutted. Well, we've got another game week on the go now. Hopefully in the next 3 days it'll be better. Or, like, I'm looking at that team that I've got on the go now that's got a game to play. I could still potentially land in a tier 0, tier 1 situation, and then you are excited. And I guess that it like I get a win. I think, like, I probably, like, I win something most weeks. I say not game weeks, but like every 7 days, I'd expect to win something. It might only be a limited or whatever, but it's something still, and you get that little buzz. And I haven't put too much new fresh money into it for a little while now, so I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is great. Like, I've got a gallery that gives me so much fun, every weekend, and I know it's a competitive gallery. I should win something every week. It doesn't it won't necessarily be like the best card ever, but it's returning something every week, and it keeps me engaged with football that I would have never watched otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Quinny? Have you any input on the utility side of things or the bear market situation?
I think, like, we've said that a few times on this podcast. Sorry, I'm still losing my voice. I was at the game on Tuesday, and after football, I can't really talk because I've been shouting and screaming and singing for for the whole game. But we've had, we mentioned it earlier with the limited kickoff that they're putting a stipulation on that, a 10 cards max. Originally, when they announced that tournament, it's going to be in every scarcity. So if there's a super rare kickoff, a rare kickoff, a unique kickoff, and it's max 5 uniques, max 10 super, whatever they do, then as long as they keep going down that path of giving like interesting competitive competitions that come up where, like we've got that kind of staple diet of all the regions, and obviously we've had a new region come in with the D2, and then between legends and weeklies and all this kind of stuff, these are the ones where I want to be using my brain to pick my team. Like what's the cheeky wee combination of players I've got that is going to run away with this leaderboard that nobody else has fought to put together,
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of utility is kind of the main thing for me that I enjoy. When I was a really small gallery, and for anyone that's a small gallery listening to this, you get that organically anyway when you've only got 8 guys in one team to pick. You're doing that every week with your team, but as you get 4 teams, 5 teams, 10 teams, whatever, it becomes a bit more painted by numbers. Challenger keeper goes here, under 23 forward goes there, etc., etc. So you do need touch points where you're engaged and you're like, oh wow, look at the top 10, and I've got this guy that's L15 under 40, or I've got this goalkeeper. So as long as they continue in the sort of vein they're going, we've got the mystery shirt thing coming up as well for the top 20 and a special weekly legends kind of thing. So as long as they kind of keep that going, I'm relatively content with the direction that things are moving.
Yeah, they've definitely looked like they're listening a lot more than the sort of outrageous, like massive backlashes from the community seem a lot more spread out now than they were. I don't know how long ago. What was it? Maybe a couple of months ago, we were having what felt like a massive fallout from the community every couple of weeks.
Yeah. I see a lot of articles that are slating the kind of the tunnel, all this blah blah. Don't play it if you don't like it. Nobody asked you to play the game. The game, a lot of people play for fun, a lot of people play for profit, a lot of people play for... It's not to trash it in every article you do, which I've seen a few times.
Yeah.
Just don't waste your energy. Like, just be positive. I don't get it.
I think a lot of the sort of bad stuff that I see online tends to be from like users who've sold up, and I think that's like more that they're sticking around hoping for bad news because it will justify that they sold at the right time, and they're looking for that because there's a part of them that hopes it fails now because it will justify that they sold up. But there's rightfully so there are people that ask questions as well as and when things go. But I do find that like the majority of the bad, like the real sort of kickback comes from users who don't play the game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to justify selling when they did, which I can kind of get that, because if I'd have sold my gallery like a year ago, I'd be kicking myself now. I'd be kicking myself.
What you mean? I was saying to Harry when he was up here, like I've kind of had this kind of I don't really know what the word is for it, maybe an epiphany or something, but like over the last 3 weeks where, like, obviously this is kind of what I do all the time now, and I've always been a wee bit nervous over the last year, like you've just got to be a bit of risk management. What if things don't work out the way you expect them to, and all that kind of stuff. And I've kind of got to the point over the last month where I'm like, if something awful was going to happen to this, like in terms of it wasn't going to work, or something was going to, the ground was going to crumble from the floor beneath it, kind of thing, or whatever, I think it would have probably happened by now, with all the stuff that have went on. Companies just strength to strength. And I think they're kind of like, with some of the discontent that we've had with the lack of communications, it feels like they've really went through this kind of, front-facing transformation of trying to grow up as a company, and not like going into Twitter DMs with everyone, or not that they used to do that, but jumping into threads and like entertaining this stuff a bit more. They're just like, we're just going to charge on, and when we're finished, you're not going to be upset.
I've only been in for say a year, and it's very clinical. It's very big business like. It's not little spats on Twitter. It's not.
Yeah,
it is properly run, regardless of what anybody says. They've answered all the questions. I don't know enough about prize pools. I've said to you many a times, I don't look at prize pools. I just want to win. Don't care what I win. I just want to win, and I'll complain about it after, but I'll still be buzzing. Do you know what I mean? I'll be like, I never won this, but actually, what's the difference between me winning a card worth 500 and 700? Because it's still money I never had. So, okay, I'd love to win a card worth 25 grand. Okay, brilliant. I would love it, but just get better. I'd love to win the league with Dundee United, but we're not going to. So, why complain about it? Do you know what I mean? We're not going to win the league. It's a fact. But just when we're down at the bottom and things aren't going well, I'm still not going, we're at the bottom, we're this. Get better. Yeah. Get better every day and do you know what I mean? And people beat you, that's fine. People with massive galleries beat you, but they get in early. Whoever invested in Nike, Adidas back in the day or whatever, I don't know what, whoever bought Bitcoin at the lowest, they done it, we didn't. So get better. And if you're going to be a late adopter, play the small competitions, keep getting bigger. I get people saying, okay, Sorare this, Sorare that, but like, they shouldn't be allowed in this. But Sorare's tried its best, going back to it as a company, to allow the smaller person to compete. And like Stish went on with the cheapest team you could build, and it was a tenner. There's ways to do it if you spend a bit of your time. See, if you spend all your time researching full time, you will win cards. Yeah. If you trade, spend your time, patience, you will make money. It is a platform that makes you have an opportunity to do well. Okay, some people buy players after they get 100 scores and think, why is my gallery dipping? I'm bad for that sometimes. But the person who had done their research 2 weeks before and bought them knowing they'd get 100 score or anticipating it, make the money. So there's a formula, there's a platforms gave it a formula. There's not just one formula, by the way, there's many formulas to make money on this. And with the crypto crash, it still stayed strong, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I invested when he was $4,000.
It's definitely separate from the crypto crash. I 100% agree with that. I think we see dips, but I don't think the dips are necessarily crypto. It's like, it's the end of that team season. It's the end of that league's season. It's the World Cup coming up. It's like, those are causing the dips, it's not the crypto crash. Like, I feel like this is almost decoupled from crypto. Yeah, it's built on crypto because you need to prove who owns what. But you don't have to, like my brother plays this game. He don't own crypto. Yeah. He joined up. He uses his credit card to buy his cards and his gallery. He's quite happy. He misses game weeks often. I didn't do it. It's just like, he's that casual about it. But there must be thousands of people like that, and there'll be tens of thousands of people that will join and play exactly like that. Like how many people play FPL and don't look at it for like a month because they've just sacked it off?
Like you said, see, you put 10 ETH in right now and said, I want to guarantee this is 15 ETH in the next 6 months. There'd be a way that you could, not guarantee, but there's a way that you could go and say, as Quinny spoke about it earlier, right, who's out the MLS playoffs? Who's scored well during the year? It's a risk. Everyone's a risk in life, though. You spend 10 ETH on 10 different players, rares, super rares, whatever, that you think's going to do well next season who aren't in the playoffs, or even the ones in the playoffs, there's a good chance you can make 15 ETH.
Yeah, if you bought like 20 of the same player that are like at the absolute bottom of their price range now, that only need to get like an L5 of like 65 in the first 10 games of the season.
I don't even think they need to do that. I think they just need to anticipate that they start the game.
Yeah. Before the season starts and the cards come out, this player is one of the players that everyone's going to want. And it's like, spend all your money on that player now and sit tight for like 3 months and see what happens.
So there is. It's
You don't
lazy
even need
for
to play the
people.
game. Yeah,
It's lazy for people to say, so there's this, so there's that. There's literally so many different ways to make money. I spent, like I said, I spent 0.65 on 2 cards to complete a Challenger Pro lineup the other day, and I reckon, I'm not sure, but I'll get a card minimum 0.4. So 60% of that investment is back.
That's
The whole team together probably cost 1 point. Edwards and me 0.5. McMahon was 0.01. Probably say harshly 1.2. So there's a good chance after 1 game week of it being together, because that is 1 game week, I'll make 33% of my income back, and that's me giving myself unfavourable numbers. So
this is it.
I don't. It's hard, but if I bought them all unlimited, they would have been peanuts.
Yeah.
And there's probably a good chance you win a card. What would a middle of the road tier 1 be?
Depends who the limited's just like you could pick up an amazing player for like, like, it's funny, like we talking about players I was trying to find that were like they were very low. Like if you go up to the sort of £4 area, you can pick up like a Rafaelov, like Rafaelov, who's at
Plays every week.
This time last season, he was one of the top scoring cards on the entire platform in Challenger, and he's like £4 in limited right now because he's not like on a purple streak. So like he would definitely have been a tier 1 like 6 months ago or something like that. Like, but this is the game you play. Like you only need to sit tight and be patient as well with some cards. So, if you're trying to get in and out really quickly, you probably will trade badly. But if you pick up a limited that costs £1 now, there's a chance that at some stage in the next 6 months that'll be a £3 card, and you've just like tripled your money, like just sitting tight on it. I know it's only £1, but if you bought 10 of them, it's £30. It's like there's ways to do it, like you said, and I think.
I think we've both touched on it pretty well. Like, I think like that's the kind of details that a lot of people miss is it's playing a game, and to play this game, some people just buy stuff and put it out there. To play this game, some people dig around and figure out what's the best I can get, what's the best combo I can do, what do I know that nobody else knows, where am I looking, nobody else is looking. So, like I think that game, understanding, like, because again, if the three of us were to turn on FIFA or we were to turn on Football Manager, we would all know how we're going to play this game, the way this gameplay works and what's fun about it, and what I find fun about it and what you do. Whereas with this game, it's the same, but it's easily confused with some people, especially when they go so heavily into trading, is treating it like a financial mechanism, but it's like, oh, well, I've spent an ETH on a team, therefore that is like a fixed asset, and it's this and it's that, and it should yield, and it should do this and it should do that. Whereas the game element of it kind of muddies those waters a bit, where, that stuff is all possible and definitely forecastable, but it's the game element that drives all that. So if it doesn't tap into the game, like Tony was saying with some of those super rares, you can get some super rares that are really cheap and really useful, but if nobody wants to play the game with them, then you're never going to really trade them that well. But some super rares you can get cheap become really good at the game, and then those are the ones where you're like, called it, got my one winner out my free or whatever. Whereas, and again, just the last thing I'll kind of say, you guys have summed it all up perfectly, but with like the bear market thing, I think like we're talking about supers and uniques and stuff like that could go for a lot. I think that stuff is really still quite tied into the price of crypto. Like if I'm trying to sell a super rare for an ETH, right, that super rare probably sells for an ETH, really regardless of the price of Ethereum. And if you're selling that when ETH is $3,000, you look like a hero. And if you're selling that when ETH's £800, you look like a fool, Whereas with limiteds and rares, I think they're just way more tied into the pound note of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So if you've got a gallery of limiteds, rares and supers, like I do, Stish does, Tony does as well, I think, with limiteds, it's all kind of disconnected, like super rares, their price doesn't really move too much on the gallery value or whatever, and the limiteds are like a heart monitor. And then the rares are just kind of in the middle, depending on if they're playing or they're injured. And it can be a bit like, it can be quite jarring, all of it. And again, you can associate the price of your super rares with your whole gallery and think, oh, my whole gallery's going down. But if you looked at it, or maybe it's the limiteds, your bottom 40% of limiteds have went from being £12 cards to being £2 cards. you know. But your supers are fine and your rares are fine. But on your gallery data thing, you've taken a 5% hit today. You know, oh my God, my galleries went down 5%. What's happened?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a game that you can cash in at the right time, or you can get a bit too excited and not make money, but that's your call. It's up to you, and if you're patient, you can take what money you want out of it if you do well and do the right things.
If you find yourself as well, if you look at the sort of like chart of like how you're trading or whatever, if you go through a period where you're like restructuring and you buy a lot of cards but don't sell any in that time, you know your chart's going to go down like that. But then like if you start winning cards, it's going to creep back up. There's lots of weight. Like you said, you can look at it short term, long term, mid term. I think me personally, and I think obviously we do a podcast, so we're probably quite long term here. Whereas a lot of like casual players are like, where is my account going to be in 3 months? And that feels long term to them, because it's like, I'm going to need that money in a few months. Like this is more than I, you know.
Yeah, it's cut off more than I could chew.
It's like I need to get out, and it's like, well, how do I get out? If you're not engaged with the community, you don't know about Pavel or like all these people. It's like there are ways to get out. If you want to take 75%, you know, you can get 75% or whatever it is, but
yeah,
you need to. You have to like engage with this if you want. Like you can't. It's not easy to make money doing anything, is it? Like it should never be easy to profit off of something.
Never.
You're not like researching properly. And I think like for me personally, like obviously I like football, so it doesn't feel like work. But if you come into this with like a financial head on, the idea of sitting in front of Sorare data all day and watching J League and K League on a Wednesday morning, that might not appeal to you. But I didn't think I'd be doing it, and here I am, and I actually enjoy it. So it's all right, but it's not for everyone, you know. And I think a lot of those voices are probably those people that are like, "Oh, this is it's taking all my time up, I'm not winning anything." So I can understand it, but you can also like you can't expect anything to be easy to win at. It's a game. Do you know what I mean? There's ways and means of going about it.
And that's why it's all about that end product, guys. I think this has been a massive bumper episode, but thanks to everyone who has stayed with us today. Wee bit of everything. We've got we do have a huge game week coming up, you know. 20 watt super rares are going to be everywhere this week. Everyone's expecting a hat-trick, Tony. Big game.
Can't confirm nor deny it's going to be a big game for us, and my challenger stack will be rolling. There'll be a lovely discount on whatever prize I win. Hopefully it's a tier 1. I'm guessing it might be a low tier 1, but it's World Cup season, baby. That's what I'm joining in. I might tell myself I'm saving up for a Thomas Muller. If it happens, probably won't. I'll see somebody in the market, I'll buy them, and then. But if anybody wants to donate a Thomas Muller, kindly, and they can come on the stream anytime they want.
Beautiful.
I'll give them a signed top, a free ticket, and 0.05 ETH.
Right, that sounds like a good deal to me.
And a signed Jamarant ball, actually. I've got a wee basketball here next to me. I've been wanting to spin around my hand for a bit, so.
Oh, cool.
I can give them that.
Nice.
Now that NBA's on.
That's it.
That's it, yeah. That's it.
Oh, and this. I got that off HGA. Look, they paid me for a
nice
sponsorship. I probably shouldn't say it. So they gave me a card for last year, so I'll probably give that to somebody. It's a Motherwell one. Don't really need that anymore since it's Dundee United and Dundee United only at the moment. So we've got loads of things we can give away in the stream. Last 10 Mikey Johnsons in a HGA card. Ask them what one they would rather.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, listeners, let us know in the comments, and we'll crack on, and hopefully we'll get some of these questions and some good stories of Sorare ruining work days next week.
Yeah. Well, should we do that? The best gets 10 Mikey Johnsons, and I'll just transfer them over, because to be honest, I got them for minimal. It's quite a good giveaway.
Let's do that. Or we could spread them out across like a few
10
stories.
best.
If your story gets read out on the podcast, you win a Mikey Johnson.
Aye, but we'll give them away before that. We'll just tell them. We'll give them like a day to do it, and number 1 gets 4, number 2 gets 3, and do you know what I mean? We'll do it that way. We'll just pick 3 people or something.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Spot on, guys.
Good luck this game week, everyone.
Good
Aye,
luck,
good
everyone.
luck.